All right, guys, I'm here. It's Don Ford. This is Progressive Insider. We're taking this interview somewhere a little different today. Something we really need to be talking about is the workers. What is happening with them on the ground, on the front lines? No one told them when they signed up for the jobs that they would be on the front lines in the next World War. So today we have with us someone very informed on this matter, a former candidate and a DSA member. Dinana Burdette is here with us today. Thank you, Dinana, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for providing this platform.
It's a pleasure to do it. COVID-19 is happening. Today's date at this recording, we are Saturday, April 4th. I always say, because things are changing so fast, I almost feel like I gotta put the year in there. It's just gonna be blinding. Which year is it if this doesn't stop? But it's April 4th right now. We are still a couple of weeks from what they're considering to be the peak, which I think will end up being pushed a month. There's no clear end in sight. And we have these frontline workers, not just like our healthcare workers that we think about, but the people that are maintaining the supply line on the people side, like where we actually take care of that. So, I would say we call them essential workers, but I feel like that's not really how they're getting treated, Diana. What would you say?
I believe that essential workers is really downplaying the fact that they are throwaways, because that's exactly how they're being treated. They're not given safety tools. They're not given proper protocols on how to maintain distance, or they're not given information that they need in order to ensure that they maintain their health. Instead, they're thrown into the front line, and if they get ill, and they do, as a matter of fact, the numbers that we see are generally the numbers from our frontline workers. And then it's the frontline workers coming back to their own communities and exposing their own communities. So
right, so they're going
throwaways,
and eating up stuff, right? Throwaways, and you used a phrase that I thought, or I believe your husband used a phrase, but I bet he heard it from you. And that was that they're not essential workers, they're sacrificial workers. And in wartime, World War I, World War II, we saw quite a bit of this, looking back on it, where the phrase was throw bodies at it. And I feel like we are dealing with the throw bodies at it situation. Now, I do see grocery store workers are getting a little bit more protections than everyone else, but not by much. We're still talking like basic limitations. And for all we know, in Los Angeles, for example, this has been going on for months. So we have no idea how long they've already been sick or what's been going on. There was 2 months ago, I saw a lot of people change out, and I don't know why. And so there's nothing really being done to protect these people. And it seems like $15 an hour is a little bit less than they deserve.
$15 an hour. I don't hear anybody saying they're getting $15 an hour to be on the front line, to be quite honest, not here. So a lot of our grocery store workers don't have masks, don't have gloves. So maybe in California they all do.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. There's some privilege I hadn't really considered. We have our governor is a Democrat, and he seems to care. Because it's one thing to be a Democrat, but also to care about the problem. Because you have a Democrat, but the caring issue, it seems like when you had your primary, really determines how well you handled this issue.
Exactly. So reactive leadership is what we have to deal with here, reactive leadership. And they only react when somebody makes enough noise and makes it look ugly, so not electable the next time around, right?
Yeah, I just had a really shocking realization. I'm sorry. I had a moment, something you just triggered something in me, and it is they are reacting, but they're reacting to trying to muck up the primary and do all these goofy electoral tricks, which is a whole other worker class, right? The people that are volunteering, there's no protections for the people volunteering to man these polls, and that's what's going on. That's a whole other issue we're dealing with that nobody's talking about. But it feels like they're, in an effort to control the vote, they're actually sending people out to die.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. So it was easy to see when we had our primary, and they still pushed the primary. They still allowed over 1 million individuals to be exposed to this incredibly deadly and easily spreadable disease, this a microscopic war that we face, they sent them out anyways, you know, because they had to have their numbers, they had to have their elections, they had to ensure that their seats were secured. That was just the beginning. But now we have these workers, these essential workers, these expendables, these throwaways, because they're putting individuals who come from, and I like to say, essential workers come from essential communities. Essential communities being the communities that are the working class communities. And so they put these essential workers in the front line and they applaud them and they say, you're amazing, you deserve everything. They draw little capes on them and plaster posters all over, right? Where are their masks? Where are their gloves? Where are their hand sanitizers? Why are you taking breaks away from them when you have individuals who are already working extra hours and you're telling them they can't take breaks? Then you're using them up further and allowing for mistakes to happen.
You're only pushing their immune systems at this point. They're risking getting sick, and I mean, you live with a scientist that's dealing with this, so it's got to be a total nightmare watching this happen in slow motion, because there's protections aren't there, and you know what's happening, and everyone's learning so slow. And so what can we do? What can we do? We have to get these people protections. We got to admit they're being treated this way first off, and not let these verbal compliments become more important than they are. So it's like when a waitress gives you a thing, and instead of giving her money, you tell her she did a great job. That's called a verbal a verbal tip instead of a.
Here's your tip. Let me write thank you on a piece of paper. But that's what's happening to our essential workers, our sacrificial workers, and these numbers continue to rise. But they're rising from community members that are coming from the essential communities.
I see it now. So you're saying people are coming in from these lower, I'm going to frame it in a way that's going to be unpopular with you because it's going to be a little thing, but just for everybody else, okay? You're like super progressive on this issue, but the idea is you have these lower income communities, the lower working class that are coming into the slightly more privileged area, and the privileged area is not handling this properly. It hasn't been handling it properly. Just started wearing masks in Los Angeles the other day in the best possible situation. You know what I mean? It's been going on. And so they then take that back to their lower income areas where more vulnerable people are, and it just spreads within the lower income areas because no one is getting the protections. And even that person who might be fine is looking at being an asymptomatic carrier. And this is more, this is just more racial income injustice and inequality, and it's all connected again. It's just all tied together. One more time.
Let me tie it even further. So then we have these individuals coming back. They're asymptomatic. They're bringing the disease back to communities that don't have the ability to protect themselves. And then there are people within the community that judge them and say, oh, but you're out, so you're asking for it.
Right, because they don't have like a badge, an essential badge. Well, they're starting to, but they don't everywhere. But you don't have like a thing saying, you know, people don't know. They just see you out.
Yeah. So you're out. Your community's always out. You know, why don't you go and shutter in? How, you know, do what you're told to do, shutter in. Well, you can't, because you have a family to feed. And you're scared about losing your job. You can't walk away from a job because you're still living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, it's not a good time to be switching jobs right now.
Yeah. And then we have them coming back to a family, and maybe the family members are out also, but how are family members supposed to deal with the fact that their brother, their sister, their mother, their aunt is going out and risking their life? They are risking their life to have a conversation with somebody while they're paying bills or shopping or buying their toilet paper. There's no toilet paper. Nobody's buying toilet paper.
We forgot about that. There's no toilet paper. But we're also talking about the people who clean these houses. And even not just houses, it's not just houses which are still getting clean. People are going to their bedrooms and dealing with all kinds of stuff, and whether or not they have access to protective materials on a public level anymore is even up for question. You're also not even considering the people that are cleaning up the hospital rooms, because those people also need just as much PPE as a nurse or a doctor, and if the nurses and doctors don't have any, how are they going to have any?
Yeah. So then these members of the community are going back, and how are their family members supposed to deal with that fact that their parent is maybe risking their life that day? You have to disassociate. You have to create these, we have to separate yourself from the situation that your parent might contract an illness and die. And you can't even think about your parent contracting an illness and bringing it back to you and your little sister. So we have communities that seem to be not taking it seriously, but it's not because they're not taking it seriously. It's because it's really difficult to live in a household where you're facing death every day if you don't disassociate from it.
Yeah, so, and there are already many of them are
factors that playing into it.
Many of them are already facing that sort of defeat on a regular basis. You said many factors are playing into it, and because I just jumped in 1 second too early, but we're getting it, we're finding a rhythm. You're talking about something that I was talking to Dr. Mustafa today about, which I just can't get over how much fun his name is to say. I should say his full name, or I'm pretty sure I'm going to hurt someone's. It doesn't matter. The point is that you're talking about the psychological defeat. And this is something I talk about, I've been talking about for years and years and years, and I call it generational suppression.
Yeah.
And so, so the idea is that we're not just suppressing people, it's like voter suppression, but we're suppressing people on a generational cycle. This is what the prison system does. The prison system, by removing the father from the system, the child has to start over. It burdens the mother, so she can't expand, and the child is more likely to end up back into that for-profit prison system. And so that's generational suppression. But since I started doing the interviews about your situation, which we were talking with your husband about what was happening with the plant that was near you before you moved, which is, it's all the same psychological, generational defeat that they're doing, and it's just oppression. It's just all it is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's normalized, internalized, normalized. We live with it. It's what we were born into, and so we don't deserve more, right? This is just life for us. So it's an everyday thing. But these individuals compartmentalize everything, and so they don't take it. It seems to others as they're not taking it seriously. But how can you live in a household in which you're always risking some type of danger, or you're always under emotional attack or mental attack, and now also you're living with your health being attacked every single time you leave your house, and not only yours but whoever else lives in the household, right? So we have these frontline workers that then are not even treated with decency and respect at work. So they go to work and they're not given information because they don't want to scare them. Education, information keeps people safe, but they don't want to scare them. There is no training on protocols on how to deal with a microscopic bacterial infection. Nothing. There's no information on how to handle day-to-day activities dealing with an invisible monster, and that's what's happening.
But they put in those sneeze guards. I don't understand. Those sneeze guards at the tellers, that should keep them safe, right? That should be enough.
At the most minimum, provide your employees who are frontline, you're drawing capes on them. Why not give them a mask? Just a simple mask. I see the positive to having gloves, but I feel as though having gloves provides a sense of false security. When you have gloves, you automatically think you're safe, right? Well, don't give them gloves, give them a mask, because it's a respiratory disease. It's transferred through respiratory droplets. So give them a mask so they're not inhaling these droplets, right?
Yeah, like the male people should be wearing gloves, but your grocery store people should just be cleaning their hands a lot. And that's really what should be going on, is they should be taking more time to wash their hands, and they should probably just have some kind of protocol to clean their hands between customers. So like ring up a person, their stuff, and then they clean their hands, and then ring up the next person, and then that way you're not transferring. Like, so like one sick person comes in, and then the thing has their gloves on, and then every person they're checking out, they're putting germs on everyone's stuff. So there'd have to be some kind of protocol to, like, if you got germs from a person, it stops there. And there's nothing like that. No one is talking. I mean, I'm saying this for the first time ever right now, because you said there are no protocols. I love writing protocols.
Done.
Those are fantastic. I'm like, great, there's something to do. It's terrible, but
they're life-saving, right? Especially when they're life-saving. I love them when they're life-saving. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there isn't any. There's no special training there's no COVID training. There is no special mask. There's no instruction for these individuals. And then they're telling them that they need to work up to 12 hours a day without a break, because that's happening also. Now,
yeah, and hazard pay isn't even a thing yet.
Nope. So we have who's in danger, the hashtag who's in danger, and that's essential workers living out of essential communities. And these essential communities are those that have been burdened with environmental and social injustice for generations. And so, and then there's that, and then we have the whole idea that we are rolling back regulations on environmental action, on environmental issues. So COVID-19, right? It can live on surfaces. If they're non-permeable, then they live up to 3 days at the minimum, 3 days. But they also, these viruses exist on particular matter, right? So if our environment worsens, then they're going to be within our air for longer periods of time. And who's experiencing, what communities are experiencing more dirtier environments, dirtier air, and that's our essential communities. So they're already susceptible from generational abuse, environmental abuse. So their immune system's already been degraded. They probably have respiratory issues. Our community here, we have 1 out of every 3 children has severe asthma that will put them in the hospital. 1 out of every 3. Nationwide, it's 1 out of 10.
And that's asthma that'll put them in the hospital before COVID, before anything like that.
Before
so that's
COVID.
Like, yeah, they're going to be in the. So when you add COVID to the asthma, I've actually seen a couple of Facebook posts of people talking about their young nephew or whatever is off in the ambulance and he's having trouble breathing. I've seen a number of these posts because we're definitely seeing the posts of people dying
younger
and
individuals
that are like our friends, direct people.
Yeah. And chances are they're coming from communities that are already susceptible to previous burdens, right? Environmental burdens. And so essential communities, essential workers, no protections, no protocols, no new training. We're dealing with an invisible monster and we're not getting the information that we need. And so who is being sacrificed? It's the essential workers. While individuals who are able to hole up now and shutter in are at home comfortably, ordering their food from the grocery store and having it delivered through Instacart. While these people are comfortable, those who are making them comfortable are having to deal with no protections and no safety. So who's in danger right now? It may have started, this disease, and Dylan and I have had this conversation, that just specifically in our county, we are a Black and brown majority in this community, but we're surrounded by very, very, very affluent communities. And so,
I assume you guys are in the flooded zone, that's how that works, right? Yeah.
So one of the first cases came from one of these affluent communities. Chances are they were traveling or they were at a party or at a fundraiser, right? Because that's what they do, these affluent communities. And so they were at a gathering, an event that they were exposed in. But now their numbers, though they peaked, they're leveling off. And guess who's peaking now? The essential communities, the sacrificial communities.
The people that were helping them this whole time, now are getting hit. And then we're going to see Right. And we're going to see this explosion through the communities. That's going to be like a series. It's like a death flower blossoming as it goes every 2 weeks. And it just is going to go on for who's going to take care of them at the end of this. I mean, this is a really, I don't think we've painted how dire of a situation this is. Carrie we got my last interview and she goes, "You guys are depressing." And you know what, I'm glad we gotta keep smiling and we gotta find solutions, because I do feel like coming out of this, we have the opportunity to say, this is what happened isn't right here. We need to do something different. Like the worst thing that can happen out of all this is that we go back to the way it was and we don't change anything. And that's, you know, there's too many people that are saying, yeah, we need systemic change, or too many, and this is an opportunity for it. It's a horrible reason to get it, but wartime, which is the best way to look at this, is the best time to get big major changes. I don't know if you noticed, but Trump accidentally gave us half of Medicare for all, at least temporarily, but it happened, and it's a huge step, and I'm not giving him credit for anything because he did it on accident. He was just like, why don't we just give him some money? We have $100 billion for hospitals. Let's give him money for the things. And people are like, what just happened?
Trump?
Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
People still, I try to explain, all the Medicare for all people are in total denial for it because they don't want to give Trump credit for moving the football. So I don't either, by the way. So heads up on that. Make sure we cut this out. So so you are fantastic. That, you know, having a real fighter for workers at the moment is just so important, because we are going to see, you know, the people, we've already seen this actually, some of the best activists are some of the most vulnerable. And so we've already seen a number of top level activists lose to this virus, and we're going to see more of that. So it's so important right now that people step up and speak up to make sure that this is secure, because this is a downward spiral if we don't gain control of it. And there are places that people have to be out.
Yeah. Just give them a damn mask. Give them the tools that they need. You want to stop the spread, you want to prevent this sickness from continuing, then give the essential workers, the frontline workers, the sacrificial lambs, give them their tools that they need. It's so simple. It's so simple. And yes, I know we don't have enough. We don't have enough PPE, right? But the chances that we can get more PPE are higher than us actually building respiratory machines, right? So we don't have enough beds, but we can definitely produce more PPE to all of our frontline workers.
All of them. All of them. I guess
all of them.
All of them. Say it one more time with me.
All of them. Yes, give it to all of them. We can't afford to prioritize one frontline worker over the other, because they're all being exposed. And if one of them gets it, then many get it, right? It's not just, it's all frontline workers that need protection, that need more education, that need new protocols. I know it's new. It's a problem only when your representatives are reactive. That's the only time that it's a problem. And I live in a community where our representatives are reactive. They don't react until there's a problem. And we have to be more proactive. You know, when we started getting the information, so you've talked to Dylan, but when Dylan started hearing about COVID, we tend to do a lot of research. We're up until like 1 or 2 in the morning doing research, just feeding off of each other. Oh, find this, find that. So we started digging deep into what COVID was, how it was developing overseas, on and on and on, looking at statistics, looking at graphs, looking at figures and spreadability and all of that. So after that first night from digging deep into it, he and I sat there and just looked at each other and was like, wow, what is coming at us? And because we actually took the time to look into it and were proactive about it, we knew that we needed to start moving on systems that were going to be beneficial to the community. So we started looking at, okay, what are we going to need? We're going to need mutual aid. We're going to need individuals to start getting food drives together and start putting together delivery systems and start putting together safety protocols. So that's what we started working on. Right now, we're actually working on getting a video together for safety protocols so that we can put it out. But why is it that it has to come from community members instead of from our representation? Aren't they supposed to be the ones with a specialist on hand? Or shouldn't they? There's no proactivity. It's all reactive, and it's never beneficial to the community unless it's going to affect their electability. If it's going to affect their electability, then they jump in and they do something else.
You know, you're really a few days for them to you're really making a point that I think is so important right now, and that's that we talk about the worker class, but we only talk about the worker class, right? We only compliment that. We don't really break down the other classes. The other class is the donor class, and it only breaks down into two classes, and that's the thing that's very upsetting. And why they don't talk about it is because the worker class and the donor class, because the worker class doesn't donate, generally speaking. That's why Bernie Sanders is kind of a standout candidate. Candidates like yourself who get worker class donations are unusual and outliers because the donor class generally wants to protect other donors. And that's ultimately what we're talking about here. We do have like, and it used to be the middle class, but now the line is like super blurry because it's everything after 2008. You know, after 2008, nothing really was the same, even though that had been on the downward spot for a long time. But
yeah,
you know, it's really important. You said some things like the mutual aid issue instead of waiting. Why does this have to go from the community? I am going to put a counterpoint on this with you, is that I do think there is some element that's gone on that's been really fantastic for us of how people have come together and how communities are coming together. LA has had some really great food drives. I mean, really impressive food drives. We have a lot of food. I've seen a couple other, states come together. It really depends on how seriously they're taking this whole thing. So there has been some things, but I think the biggest thing, you brought two issues that I think are also important. Government moves too slow now to handle something like this. Why does it have to come from the people? Because the government moves too slow. We could argue about that all day long. Why not? This isn't the interview for that, but we all agree that that's the thing. And the number one thing from this whole interview I'm taking is that essential workers need new protocols. And we're talking about if we know a worker is essential, every job needs new protocols. And it's not for anything other than to stop the transmission and contagious nature of the virus, because until we get this stuff figured out, right. Until we get this figured out, this is going to keep on going. And as much as I love sitting at my house, which I would do anyways, it hasn't actually changed a whole bunch for me. I just have more groceries, which is its own privilege, I suppose. And I think you did actually kind of hammer a point. Like, I have been able to, because my wife, and when everything hit the fan, I called my parents, because that's what you do in an emergency. And because I'm one of those don't have $400 in the bank. If I had no one to lean on, I would be the person being like, what do I do? And so, we've been able to have the privilege to spend the money on the groceries and take care of the things and get into this position. And if you are someone watching this video who is in that position, consider how lucky you are and how many are not in that position. Many are still trekking out to work. Many don't have sick day benefits. And that's another thing we really need to have discussion with, Diana, is just sick benefits. Never mind the no protection, but when they're sick, they don't deserve oh, okay, yeah, we talk about them getting other people sick, but there's this guilt, because we're talking about the psychological impact. They know they're sick. They have to work anyways. The masks aren't out there. There are no protections. So not only getting guilt at home for having to go out, they're getting guilted while they're driving around. Then they have their own personal guilt of maybe they're getting people sick when they don't want to. And then it just goes into this you have a whole new problem at this point. It's like 100 bodies at a time is a problem, but 100 bodies a day, you have a new problem. And that's whatever's doing it, obviously. But you get what I'm going with right here.
Yeah, we can also talk about immigrant communities, because then there's the immigrant issues where if they lose their job, and a lot of them have lost their job.
You're talking about J1 visas.
About what?
You're talking about J1 visas. Like people that are here
No,
on working
no,
visas.
I'm talking about immigrant communities. Immigrant
Okay.
communities are those who are here with mixed status. So, you know, dad doesn't have any documents, but mom is a citizen, or dad and mom don't have any papers, but kids are citizens, right? So we're
Yeah, and
talking about
that stuff is
immigrant.
definitely not moving forward right now, too. I mean, wherever that is, it's not going to change.
No,
Well,
well,
this is happening.
they're even worse off because they've lost. If they weren't in an essential position already, right? Then they've lost their job. If they worked at a warehouse where they were putting together fasteners and they're no longer considered essential workers, and they've lost their job, they're not getting any of the financial relief. They're not getting any benefits. They're not going to be able to apply for unemployment. They're not getting anything. And so where are they now? Now we have an entire household of individuals who don't even have enough for water, you know, not even enough for water. And they don't have enough for keep. They don't have enough for their rent. They don't have enough for bread the next day. So now we're talking about these communities. Oh, and you said you're from California. So tell me, what about the workers that are picking strawberries off of the bushes?
That's a big conversation here, actually. That is a big conversation. I mean, not necessarily with like normal people, but I am having that conversation at least. Two things you brought up. Number one, squalor is a really important word right now because before we would go, well, screw them, they can live like that because people are evil like that. But now being evil like that is actually putting every community at risk because these become these explosion points for the virus. If you have like 10 people all living together and they don't have proper resources to fight the virus, which is what the stimulus was supposed to be. Everyone goes, oh, I can pay my rent. I'm like, no, you're supposed to be fighting your symptoms with that money because we have no idea what's going to happen.
But they're not getting it, right? So they're not fighting their symptoms. Let's
right.
talk about mutagenic properties and viruses also. No, let's not talk about that. But.
No. Well, we do have a little bit of one fortunate thing that we're going to look into a little bit more is I know if you don't have a social security number, this gets a little problematic, but there is talk of being able to get the stimulus from having a tax ID. And you can get a tax ID a couple of ways without being a citizen. So sometimes workers that are undocumented who work here, they do have a tax ID, but they don't have citizenship. And so eventually you're going to be able to use, supposedly, you can even use that tax ID to get access to the stimulus money. But I don't know if that's actually going to happen. And that would still be like really 4 months, 5 months away. Yeah, no, it's this is something that has to change because especially when you're dealing with contagion like we are now, it doesn't matter where they're from. It doesn't matter. That's why a lot of countries are handling it this way, where they're undocumented workers or people from other countries. They're getting all the benefits of everybody else because you can't have anyone living in squalor and to be these pockets of getting sick.
We're not that country, right?
Oh, no, we are not. Not to mention, what about a new virus forming? We get another mutation in some weird apartment building.
Yeah, and then that explodes further.
So this all goes back to protecting
providing the safety. Yeah, we need to just start providing more safety tools and providing education, protocols, safety training, aseptic training, so that we can prevent the spread. I mean, and this is one of the battles that we're fighting in this massive war. It's a microscopic war, but it's only the microscopic war that's brought out all the other wars and made them very apparent. So
that's true, because the other ones were like they could get by on the losses because they were very slow. It was easy to things slowly disappear, or they knew there was a problem, so people had time to acquiesce. But this is like happening so fast that people are like, oh, we've been met. Oh no, we're not.
Yeah, and it can't be contained anymore, right? So before it was like, oh, only 40,000 people are being affected. Now it's like, oh, there's no boundaries for it. So now we have to really.
So I'm going to take up this protocol issue, Diana. I'm going to take this up. This is going to be a takeaway from this conversation. I'm going to take away. First off, we need government to move faster, but that's just, I mean, that's an ongoing issue. Yeah, we need a new constitution, to be honest. And the four founding fathers all discussed that would need to happen around this time in history. So hopefully we'll get there in the Republic. We've just been waiting for the Koch brothers to die, so they don't get to do it. Already out. So the essential workers need new protocols, and I think that's going to be our takeaway. They need safety, and when you say new protocols, then the giving them the masks and giving them the protection,
Yes.
that it all goes in it. So the new
One
protocols means new
little
procedures.
package. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Aseptic training, aseptic training, push for aseptic training. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And all I can think about is that one grocery store person that was sick for like a month in December that I really regret always going to her aisle. But she is fantastic and I love her as a person, but she has the worst training in this regard now. And it really highlights the point of that we need to get this out there. It's not just for their safety, it's public safety. And I think oddly enough, and this is the really hard part about this, Diana, is that we're going to have a better, we're trying to protect the worker, but we're going to have a better job protecting the worker by promoting it as protecting the public. And that's just back into, it makes me angry that I feel like I'm going to have to feed the sacrificial worker argument the wrong way in order just to get something that will keep people alive at all. We're trying to unperpetuate these lies and, you know, remove the control of the evil that is killing people right now. I mean, really, I always say we get to measure our losses in human lives, and now we are literally measuring our losses in human. I didn't expect to be taken so literally. So on that note, Diana, thank you for being here. We're going to talk more about your candidacy and other stuff later on. This COVID issue is just the biggest issue, and I think you understand. Getting workers safe is number one, because not just our medical workers.
Absolutely number one. Yeah, you want to beat COVID, then protect the damn workers. Can I say that? Sorry.
You
want to beat COVID, protect the workers.
You can say protect the
all of
workers.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. Because we're only talking about the doctors, but the front lines are more than the doctors.
Yeah, it's the custodians, it's the cashiers, it's the delivery people, it's the people cooking the food, preparing food. Dylan and I haven't ordered food out because we read too much about the science and the transmittability of it. So it worries us quite a bit, but there are a lot of people still eating out, going and picking up food and bringing it back. Let's provide them aseptic training so that way we can ensure that it's not being spread that way as well.
Yeah, that's so true, especially when you're talking about being in a car for 3 days and the car driver getting on the bag and then it coming in your house, and then it's only been in the car for a day, so now it's on the bag for a day, the bag's on your counter, that's there for a day.
What about
you're still in the window. You're still in the window for live virus. Yeah. And that's crazy.
You can be asymptomatic for up to, they say 14, but there have been many cases where you're asymptomatic until day 16, and then it's all downhill and you're in the hospital. So, you know, you can be asymptomatic and be preparing food and have that respiratory droplets come out in your speech while you're having a conversation with the other cook. And then what, right?
I think we need to get those guys some masks.
Protect workers. Yes.
Yeah. All right. All right, Diana, I'm going to wrap it up on that note. You've been amazing. We're going to keep talking about this issue because I feel like this is going to be, we're going to have new problems and new discussions about protocols, because we're going to get some new protocols. We're going to discuss what are essential workers, what kind of essential protocols are necessary for each one. And we're going to have to actually talk to these essential workers to determine what they do and how they do it, and a little bit of studying, but we're going to have to do it really fast. So let's go. All right, let's save some lives. So I am Don Ford. This has been Diana Burdette and Progressive Insider. We do have some items on our Patreon going up. We're pretty excited about. We have this shirt, which my wife says makes me look like a pirate, but there you go again. Proud Progressive. Nice. Don't use kindness. This is the giveaway. I use a mirrored camera, but I think, anyways, Proud Progressive. Don't confuse kindness for weakness. This is a Carrie Barber original. So our first shirt, little label on the side. It's very comfy. The wife's already tried to steal it twice. So I know, fundraising.
I think I won some t-shirts. I might be getting one of those. Am I getting one of those?
Whoa, I don't know. You and Carrie are pretty close, so you guys can work it out. On that note, that's it for us, guys. Diana will be back. I will be back. Thank you for being here.